Welcome to Clean Plates, where every bite tells a story. I'm Brian Romaine, joining you on a culinary journey to understand the whys behind our diets and desires. Welcome to Clean Plates, where every bite tells a story. I'm Brian Romaine, joining you on a culinary journey to understand the whys behind our diets and desires. Today I have my good friend Mike Adella with me. Mike, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, and I love the name of your podcast. It makes sense I'm a guest because my plate is always clean.
Yeah, when growing up, my mom had the Clean Plate Award, as well as with two older siblings and myself. My parents were very tactical about portions. So when nobody ever overate, and my dad, that was his biggest pet peeve, is if you always took more food than you could eat, because he never wanted to throw anything away. And leftovers were like we had leftovers that was just called leftovers. What are we having tonight? We're having leftovers.
Oh yeah.
It's just like
Leftovers are the best. I just had a bunch of leftovers.
Yeah, exactly. So Mike, you're a performance coach. You are very well known in the fitness industry. You have a lot of accolades that even range all the way up to breaking world records for some of the lifts that you've performed. What is that like to approach with your nutrition? Because you and I have had conversations about the iron age of bodybuilding and just all the things that really inspire you to do some of the crazy lifts that you do on just in your lifestyle, as well as you break it down in the men's performance coaches classes that you do. So what's that like being, so on the go that your nutrition needs to have such balance?
I just eat for performance, really. So depending on whatever my goals are, that'll dictate kind of my diet and what I'm eating. I mean, I like to eat as much organic food as possible. No refined oils and seed oils, really clean. And then I like to get a lot of protein from like real food. So if I'm lifting a lot and I want to maintain muscle or build muscle, I'll just like kind of play with my macros of carbs, proteins, and fats and just up the proteins. Currently, I'm doing a bunch of endurance races. And so I'm actually trying to lose some weight and will probably lose some muscle. And so I'm lowering my carbs to try to turn my body into a fat burning machine. And so that's kind of awesome at this moment because I went through the beginning of not having a lot of carbs, and now I just get to eat as much bacon and fatty meats as I want, and feel good in my body and my joints and everything when I'm putting in the miles.
No, that's a good way to put it, just because like dictating what you eat during what you're training for should kind of be the main goal in the first place. So I think it's admirable that you're always treating it as a mechanism and using your body as a machine to really like dial in what you need to do. I think that's very helpful for the audience, just because a lot of people get confused on like, what should I do for this? What should I do for that? And so it's nice to know that you're just, doing whatever you want, but you're also dialing things in a little bit at a time. So currently you have how many races coming up?
A lot. Maybe let's see, the Leadville race series is going to be 6 races this summer, plus a handful of other races thrown in there.
Interesting. Yeah. So, cause like last week, I believe I was having a conversation with Brock Covington just about the style of kind of the hybrid lifestyle of lifting 6 days a week, but also getting in anywhere from, 8 to 12 miles a day, because your endurance training, your road training, but it's mostly on the trails, but still it's like that's gotta be a lot to balance, I can imagine.
Yeah, it can be. I don't know. I'm really a big fan of like calling myself up to something, and so putting a big goal in front of me, and then kind of helps me get my butt in gear. And there's a lot of time in the day if you can organize your time well. And so for me, they just don't have a lot of idle time to kind of wait around and do stuff. Like there's a lot of things that I like to do, and you have to make sacrifices, here or there. Like I don't own a TV, so I don't spend a lot of time like just sitting down and
Interesting.
watching TV, or I don't play video games or don't do
Hmm.
those things. And so um, if I need to, go out for an hour to run, I can just go out my front door, run for an hour, come back, and just like jump right onto like I literally just got back from a run and now I'm talking with you. So
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. No, I mean that's an interesting point that you don't have anything distracting you. If you have a goal, you have a lot of things coming up and you have a lot of goals to set with those races. So I think it's pretty admirable that you're just kind of focusing on your work as well as the outside work. Your the things that are coming up for these races or just keeping your body maintained because you're pretty well known for how I mean, like, well, I'm trying to think of the word because flexible is kind of like an understatement because what you do is way beyond that with how you can move and balance your body. Like, it's pretty impressive just from the time that I've known you, seeing and the workshop that we did a few weeks ago. It really put people in front of exactly what you do. And it was pretty cool to see some of the way that you're able to hold your body up or like move it and bend it a certain way. Are there any like practices in just your exercise history that has led you to kind of this, you know, like acro yoga type of, performance?
yeah, there's a ton. I mean, I love moving my body and exercising and learning
Hmm.
about myself through movement, and so my whole life I've been doing that. I mean, it started when I was a little kid playing, you know, public school soccer, and then pretty much played every sport. I was really fortunate. My parents were able to drive me around after school to a lot of different practices, and then that got me into strength and conditioning, which is what I started my career doing. That got me into the more mindset stuff, which then was like yoga. And then yoga got me into hand balancing and acrobatics, and then partner acrobatics and weightlifting, Olympic weightlifting, and stand up paddleboarding, and all of this type of stuff. I just love exploring it all. And what I really like doing with strength is figuring out what's the most bang for my buck with a strength exercise. And then if I can do that thing, and then I can translate that into other areas. And so like an example of that would be if I wanted upper body strength, um, like doing strict work in the gymnastics rings is going to be a lot better bang for your buck in terms of time than just like doing a ton of machines at like a Globo gym. And at the same time, you're learning new skills, so it's fun. You learn how to do a muscle up, how to do a forward roll, how to do a L sit, all of those type of things that create tension in your body, and then you can just express that strength in different ways, which would be like lifting someone over your head or lifting yourself upside down in a handstand, or now it's running 100-mile races or biking 100-mile races, or things like that.
Interesting. Yeah, no, the way you broke it down was fascinating just because you kind of like stratosphered right through the history of what led you to what you do today. So as a kid, were you always eating around the sports that you played? Were there any like dietary restrictions you've had since you were a kid that have led into your adult years that have made you tweak your diet even though that you said you eat for like tool, you eat for to feed the machine, but I know for a fact that you eat very clean and you have a lot of wherewithal and knowledge on the angles of gluten, dairy free, all the above.
Yeah. Okay, so this is a little bit longer story, but I think it's worth it. I when I was born till the time I was 2 years old, I was diagnosed with 51 ear infections. And so I was pumped full of antibiotics like every other week for the first 2 years of my life as my immune system was developing. Now, my parents at the time really didn't know what that would do. And as I got older, when I was 5 years old, I would be like a devil child if I didn't get a lot of sleep, just like really cranky. And so they brought me to the sleep doctor and we lived in New York. And the doctor was like, oh, you know what? He's just a 5 year old boy. He's just growing. He just needs a lot of sleep. Put him down for a nap and then he's fine. So I would go take a nap for 4 hours, wake up and be totally fine. So from 5 till 13, when I'm in middle school, I would just be so tired all the time. And I loved pasta, chicken parm, Alfredo sauce. Like I just love carbohydrates. And so I would always get so tired after. Like I have vivid memories of being at a restaurant, eating a big bowl of pasta and falling asleep in the booth. Not like immediate, like narcolepsy. Although my dad did say that happened once, I don't remember, but just getting so tired, falling asleep in the booth. And so when I'm 13, I would be so tired in school, just from like sandwiches and stuff, that I'd go to the bathroom and like sleep in the stall for 5 minutes and then go back to class. And I'll save all the
Right. It's
energy.
wild.
Yeah, I mean, I'd save all of my energy for sports after school. And then I'd come home after sports and I'd be exhausted. I wouldn't want to do any work. And, I'm in seventh, eighth grade. My parents are like, you're lazy. You just don't want to do work because you're, teenager. And so I'm like, no, I'm really tired. And I go to bed at,
Right, right.
I'd sleep for a long time. And then, one day I went to bed at like 4 p.m. and woke up at 9 a.m. the next day. Like I got like 18 hours, 17 hours of sleep. And so my parents were like, okay, let's go back and do a sleep study. And at that time, they diagnosed me with what's called long sleeper syndrome, which, if you think on like a standard deviation curve, most people, in terms of the amount of sleep they need, are in the middle from like 7 to 9 hours for your body to regenerate and you to get a good restful night's sleep. Some people are on one end of that where they need like 3 to 4 hours and they're totally good. Some people, like myself, are on this other end, and the doctor was like, yep, you're on this other end. You're going to need 12 to 13 hours a night to feel the same way as, the rest of the population pretty much that gets, 7 or 8 hours. And they're like, well, you have to take this pill every single day for the rest of your life to basically like give you a few hours of sleep. And so I started taking this pill. It's called Provigil. I took it for 9 years. And then right after I was done working, interning with the New York Jets, I got into like holistic health and wellness, studied with Paul Chek, and was like, oh, you know what? I want to travel the world studying what makes people happy and healthy. And I want to try an elimination diet because that's what I was learning about at the time, and see if I can eliminate gluten, dairy, nightshades, and see if that affects my sleep. And when I took out gluten, it drastically affected my sleep. I didn't need to take that pill, which was helpful for me at the time because I just took a backpack and a one-way ticket and had this plan to travel all over the world, and stay in hostels and travel. And so from then on, I haven't eaten any gluten, and then dairy.
Wow.
I had really bad allergies. I think it's from when I was really young. My immune system never got a chance to like recover my microbiome, and so when I took out dairy, all of a sudden I didn't have as bad allergies. My skin started to clear up. I could play with some animals. I could go outside. I could do a lot of stuff. But when I got tested, I'm giving a whole health story, but maybe this helps someone.
No, no, this is the juice, man. Give it to me.
Okay, so when I was playing football in college, I remember the spring ball. Um, we were running, and there was a bunch of pollen, and I couldn't breathe. I was so allergic that I went to an allergy doctor in Ithaca, New York, and they pricked my back. And if you ever got your allergies tested, they kind of give you a bunch of these different allergens like ragweed and trees and grasses and cats and dogs, and they prick your back with these 40 different ones. And then they leave you there for 20 minutes. They come back after 5 to kind of check on you, and then they come back after 20 and they give you a rating based on the way your skin reacts, and a one to 4. And so the intern came back after 4. Excuse me, the doctor came back after 5 minutes just to check, make sure everything's cool, and goes, like, holy F bomb, like get the intern 4+, 4+, 4+. Like this is the reaction that this example of like a very allergic thing. And he was like, you must be crazy uncomfortable. And I'm like, I'm a little itchy, but that's what I just been dealing with. And so they left, 20 minutes came up, come back in. And they're like, wow, I've never seen this before, but you are allergic to everything. You just don't know what it feels like to not be allergic. And I was like, okay, sweet. Like, what can we do? I don't know the difference. I just want to be able to play football. And they had allergy shots every week for 2 years. And at that time, I couldn't afford it and I couldn't travel there. So I just kind of sucked it up. But actually recently, so then I started playing with my diet, took out dairy, ate a little bit cleaner, stopped drinking alcohol. And that really helped me out a lot. So now I don't eat any dairy. I don't eat any gluten. And I'm really conscious of like when and what I eat and how it affects the way that I sleep, the way that I can perform, the way I think, I feel, all of it.
Nice. I mean, like, that's mind blowing to say the least. I didn't even know that. Just because I always knew that you were, dairy and gluten free, but I didn't know it was because of to that extent. So that's like really cool because, that's a really extreme version of getting to know your body. But I think that more people should focus on like what is tailored to them. I wish we had more cheerleaders for, and or pediatricians and doctors that weren't just testing allergies, but they were like doing like, gut check and like health in that sense, just because I think that's something that's lacking. And I think that that's really interesting that it, came because you were probably what, like 21 by the time that this happened or what?
They get a little bit older, like 22, 23 when I left for my trip.
Yeah. I mean, that's still, yeah. Cause for the last like little over a decade, you've just been able to tweak even more. Hmm.
I'm
That's,
I'm just always tweaking, man. Like always tweaking.
yeah.
what what feels good? What works best for my body? And then just what changes is the self-esteem to actually listen to that. Because for a while I knew certain things weren't good, but the emotional pleasure I got from eating them was better than not eating it and eating something else. And so that like being hungry was something that was hard because when I was it's another food story. So when I was in high school, I played quarterback and corner. And when I got recruited to play in college, they put me at middle linebacker. And I was like, middle linebacker, I'm like 190 in high school. I'm looking at the roster. These guys are like 240. I'm like, I'm going to get smashed. Like, I like to be in space, like to run around. I'm pretty quick. And so um, I was like, well, I need to get bigger. And so then I actually met this guy, Mark Chasnoff, who used to coach the US women's Olympic weightlifting team. And he coached me and taught me how to do the Olympic lifts my senior year of high school. And so it was kind of like at least what felt like to me now, like a Mr. Miyagi type situation where he had all these amazing weights in his basement. Uh, and it was me and this other guy who went to a rival high school, who was a year older than me. And there was just like a metal chair, a platform, like the nicest bars and plates that I didn't even know existed, but he had them for like Eleiko plates from overseas. And we treated the barbells like you would think a samurai treats a sword. Like so much respect, so much discipline in that practice, which is another story. But the food aspect was important because he said, if you want to gain weight, you need to let your body rest and you need to eat in a calorie surplus. And so he said, which I'm not recommending, but it worked for me at the time. He's like, whenever you're done with your regular dinner, eat an entire rotisserie chicken every night and you'll gain weight. And so I went from 190 to 230 in 4 months, 40 pounds,
Oh my
4 months.
God.
And I got so strong. I went from never learning how to Olympic lift to clean and jerking over 300 pounds. And so,
Oh my
but the thing that was really helpful that people skip these days is I never added weight for the first 6 weeks. It was just the barbell, just learning to create tension and positioning. And then I would squat and overhead press and bench and those other things to gain strength. But then as we started to add the weight in, it wasn't that like I already knew the right position and I knew how to create tension within the bar so that the weights could really fly up versus a lot of people now in like a CrossFit gym or something, they're going to start adding weight right away, which is going to limit them with their technique. And Olympic weightlifting is so technical that if you're kind of blinded by your ego in the beginning, you're never going to be able to lift a lot of weight and probably get frustrated and hopefully not, but probably get injured.
That's a really like that's a really smart way to think about it in retrospect because A, you were doing it that way because you were getting the form in and you were, just eating in a calorie surplus. So the two kind of married into the relationship that grew you that weight. But now you're also recommending what people should be doing still to this day. And that kind of gives me affirmation because I'm in the journey of that camp, what you're talking about, where like I'm right now, because I'm like getting back into the first 6 months of just building my body back up. Like, A, I've gained over 20 pounds. So that's great. But maintaining it and like not rushing into comparing myself to anybody still and just doing like if anything I'll put, fives or tens on there because it actually like can, hit the ground. But yeah, I mean I'm really just trying to make form the biggest priority and eating enough. So it's nice to hear that, you know, from somebody who has kind of gone all over the spectrum with performance and now you are a performance coach. It's nice to hear that that's what you would recommend. So,
Yeah, I mean, listen, things take time, especially strength. And so the biggest trap is comparison. At that time, there was no Instagram, no Facebook. Maybe it just came out, but there wasn't a lot of comparison. I didn't know what other people were lifting. There was like a few other gyms in the area, and like my coach kind of knew what other people were lifting. And so, he was getting me to do some competitions like at that and like the Empire State Games and stuff. But
right.
I was just motivated to improve myself. And like, if I could squat 200 pounds on Wednesday and then next week I could squat 210, I'm like, sweet, I'm getting stronger. That feels good. I can feel myself getting stronger. But what I forgot to say before with that whole eating story is that really solidified for me. Like, if I want to get stronger and I want to get bigger, I have to eat. And so, and now it's like an extreme calorie surplus, but at that time I'm 17, 18 years old, like very impressionable. And so now when I do a big like strongman lift or something like that, in my mind I have to reprogram him. Like, I don't need to go eat a whole rotisserie chicken. Like, I just have a protein shake and I'm good. Because I don't want to get up to like 260. I want to be lighter at the moment. But it's interesting how your body responds. Like, if I'm doing a lot more running, then I'm actually not that hungry afterwards because I think there's signals being sent that are saying, "Oh, we're running. Let's like lower the appetite." Versus, if I'm putting 1,000 pounds plus on my back and lifting it up, like my body's like, "Oh crap, that's what we're gonna do now. Cool, we're gonna raise this appetite because we need to get you bigger for these demands that you're asking us." And so when people want to gain weight, which it sounds like you're wanting to do and get stronger, um, I really like that, like, um, that way of training through your nervous system, like overloading your nervous system and even like a smaller lift, like a partial lift, because that will tell your body, oh wait, Brian's like trying to lift this really heavy weight. Let's increase his appetite and start to put on some size. Which a lift like that could just be like a yoke hold. Like, if you put the yoke super high and you just lift it a few inches off the ground, you probably lift triple or more your whatever you can back squat. And so you're creating tension in your body gets those signals, it tells you to increase your appetite and also increase the size.
That answers my exact next question because how you balance your body between the two dichotomies of lifting, hundreds and hundreds of pounds of weight and then going and running, 10 plus miles must be such a just a mind complex mental gymnastics to balance out your macros and your protein, but it sounds like you have it completely dialed in. I mean, it's you're definitely one of the quote unquote strongest people I personally know. And I think that's kind of cool that you're going into a different direction as opposed to just get bigger and get bigger and get bigger and just lift more weight. Like I think that's interesting. Like, is that just kind of like different now, just running and running and running a lot?
Yeah, I mean, running is definitely different than lifting, but it's not necessarily the lifting that I enjoy or like getting bigger. It's the process that I really like. I actually just made this post on Instagram before I got on here.
Hmm.
Called like conquistadors of the useless, which is a term that gets thrown around a lot in the climbing world. Because when you're climbing a mountain, there's no like practical point to climb the mountain. Like there's nothing at the top of the mountain for you. And it's for me, it's pretty similar practice with training. Like there's really no reason to hold 300 plus pounds over my head with one hand. Like I'm never going to need to do that. But the journey of understanding and that puzzle of figuring it out, like how my shoulder needs to get activated, what my hip needs to do, where my wrist is, where my gaze is, all of that for me is just like a fun puzzle. It's like a way that I like to express myself. It's my art. And so running is just a different canvas. And for me, it's one that's new. So there's so many more, I have so many more options to kind of color with. And there's so many more things to learn. Similarly with biking, I'm doing a lot. Haven't done a lot of bike races, but this summer I'm doing the Leadville 100 mountain bike race as part of
Hmm.
the Leadville series. And so that's a whole new kind of animal to learn about and see, is it possible? Can I do this? What do I need to do this? What's the training look like? And then, overcome those worries and, eventually accomplish it.
Nice. No, I mean, I appreciate you just kind of wrapping things up nicely like that, just because at the end of the day, the you don't want to ever be bland with what you're doing in your life, and I think it's interesting that you're always exploring new things.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, I think we all tell ourselves stories. And so like my biggest fear with posting some of this stuff on the internet is that someone's going to compare, themselves to me with my lifts and then feel bad about themselves. Like my goal is to um, inspire people to be able to like color outside the lines and to just try something different. Not compared to me. Like I've been lifting a barbell over my head with one hand for years now, and it's a pretty weird move. And so I'm gonna probably be good at it because I practiced it a lot of times. And so like I mean I'll make up a story for you, like you've gained 20 pounds and I think a pretty quick amount of time. You're trying to gain weight, you're trying to gain strength. There's like a whole identity around that for you that's probably pretty inspiring and exciting to go through that journey and to express yourself in that way. And I think that's the case for a lot of people that are lifting in the gym because you can feel yourself changing in that aspect, which is, I think, why the gym's so popular. Some of the work I do with my performance coaching is trying to get that same thing, but through mental and emotional work. And so in those things, you don't see them. Like, I don't see an improved relationship like in my own body. Like, I would see it after a big upper body day. I feel pumped. I see myself bigger. I'm like, yeah, I did something good versus like how do you see a better relationship with yourself or with your partner? It's hard to quantify that. But those are the things that ultimately really move the needle in how you feel about yourself and your life.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Mike, I know you got to get going. So, what's the best way that people can get a hold of you?
My website, mikeadella.com. There's information
Mhm.
there on my coaching. And then Instagram, I'm at mike.idella.
Beautiful. Well, Mike, we'll definitely wrap up with another conversation in the future to kind of check in with more with what you're doing, and we'll dive into more of a deeper conversation. But again, I respect and appreciate you putting some time aside just to chat with me today.
Man, thank you so much. Yeah, thanks for letting me share these stories. I haven't shared them, I don't know if ever, some of them. So it was awesome, Brian. Thanks for the space.
Of course, man. Yeah, like I said, I'm here to create that space for these conversations and relationships around food, and I'd love to talk with you more in the future.
Sounds good, brother.
Thank you for joining me today on our flavorful journey here at Clean Plates. If you enjoyed our exploration into the world of food and the stories behind our eating habits, be sure to subscribe where you get your podcasts. And don't forget to share your own food stories on my personal page at Brian Waterleaf or the Clean Plates podcast page on Instagram. And remember, every plate has a story and we are here to discover them together. So stay curious, keep exploring, and continue to nurture your relationship with food. I'm Brian Romaine, and until next time, keep your plates clean and your hearts